Well, good morning, everybody. To start off today, I want to talk about the lake effect snow. We've been kind of showing in each report for the past 10 days that the risk for considerable amounts of lake effect snow were quite high for the end of this week going into the weekend, and we're starting to see that here. The radar animation you've been watching here shows you the wind parallel bands that have set up here across parts of Lake Superior and Lake Michigan and also Lake Huron, but we have the shore parallel bands. This is all due to the orientation of the lakes that are setting up right here along Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. And some of these are going to be capable of delivering between 2 and 5 feet of snow and maybe locally heavier amounts in certain places. Now, the Arctic front that was needed to help deliver the really cold air to create the temperature differential needed for lake effect snow, you can see the main front is now slicing right down through this region. So you have very warm lakes, which is common in fall, and then the temperature above that is very cold. So the atmosphere destabilizes quickly. You get these convective snow bands, and they're able to really put down a lot of heavy snowfall. Now, in addition to that, there will be some lighter snow that's around this, but as you can see, the heaviest snows are going to be on the downwind side of the lakes. And this is just look right now at the high-resolution NAM model forecast for the next 60 hours. This gets us through midday Sunday. And there will be some places in through here where the lake effect snow bands just narrowly set up a very, very heavy a band of snow. So a lot of folks are out there chasing this. It's kind of a fun thing for storm chasers to do. So I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of news and media coverage of this. On the bigger kind of side of things across the rest of the United States, let's take a look at our all hazards weather map this morning. So we have the lake effect snow warnings here, the winter weather advisories surrounding the lakes, and there's, again, a few places here we could expect to see some slick roads due to some scattered snow. But we've had very cold air make it all the way to the south. We still have freeze warnings out for the lower Mississippi, well, really the mouth of the Mississippi River down here into along the Gulf Coast. Wind chill warnings are in place across parts of Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nebraska, and there's going to be some very strong winds coming out of the north and west today across parts of the Dakotas. You have winter weather advisories down here in parts of Texas as well, and some air stagnation issues in Oregon, but some windy conditions throughout parts of California. So let's go from there and just take a look at the current temperatures this morning. This is 7:10 a.m., and we can see the position of that Arctic front really just delivering extremely cold air down through parts of kind of along the spine of the Rocky Mountains and into the plains. And this cold air is going to continue to make it farther and farther south. As we talked about earlier in the week, that's going to be important for setting up the next couple of systems that are going to come through. So here's today's midday winds. So we're going to see those strong northwesterly winds and westerly winds across the plains, extending all the way here into parts of the Great Lakes states. But I'm again watching how far into the south the colder air makes it. I think this is going to be an important setup for where this particular pattern is going to go. So let's take a look at it and kind of diagnose the next 10 to 15 days here. So our first animation is going to come from the high-res NAM. Let's park this out about 7 a.m. this morning. As I play this through, you're going to see a lot of lake effect snow here. And there's going to be a reinforcing shot at some snow coming around a weak low out of parts of Ontario as well. But while that's occurring, there is also going to be, as the Arctic front presses farther to the south, some overrunning down here in Texas. And that's where we're going to see some scattered rain along the Gulf Coast, potential for some ice right back here in parts of central Texas. So take a look at that. We will see scattered rain all along the very bottom edge of this trough, which is sitting here. There's actually a long front that just sits all the way here, and it's wrapped up into a low that's off the screen. And that's where we're going to see the chances for some scattered showers, maybe some thunderstorms. But as we play through the weekend, this is Saturday evening. Again, just more lake effect snow as this little shortwave kind of clips its way through the Great Lakes. And other than that, along the front, high pressure dominates, and we're drier, kind of coast to coast outside of those two regions. Now, over the next 7 days, this is what the total accumulated precipitation looks like. And we've seen the models back off, especially in the western United States, with some of the precipitation I had anticipated coming through that area. What's deceiving here is that possibly at the end of this 7-day time period, there could be a pretty substantial system that comes in based off of one wave that comes out of British Columbia, a second one that comes up out of Texas, and possibly on next Thursday produces something here that could move to the East Coast. So we're going to watch for that very, very carefully. But otherwise, much of the United States outside of the Great Lakes, up here in coastal Washington into British Columbia, and then along the Gulf Coast, are going to be dry. We're going to see very dry conditions, and we'll talk about those temperatures in a moment. But take a look at this. Here's today's European model run. So no surprises with what we've got here coming up Saturday into Sunday. And let's get us out here to Monday. Now, the pattern for the big ridge in the in Alaska is broken this weekend. So now we start to see better chances of precipitation working their way down the west coast of North America. While that's occurring, much of the country is going to be drier during this time. This is next Tuesday, getting into Wednesday. So you do see next Tuesday night a push from a frontal boundary that's going to come into the northwest, possibly putting some snows down here in the Rocky Mountains. And that's going to try to push through Montana, maybe delivering some scattered snow. Maybe in eastern Montana it might be warm enough for some rain. So yeah, your temperatures are really going to rebound. But this is the first system, this one that came in like this, that I'm watching, because another one is starting to brew down here. Remember, we talked about how that cold air sets up a better situation for a Gulf Coast low that can move quickly north. So this latest European model wants to do that, wants to build this system. See it right there? It's a combination of a short wave out of the north and the moisture return and this weak low out of the south that by midday on Thanksgiving could be curling up through the Midwest and then pressing east. Now, if that occurs, that's going to be setting up for storms over parts of the southeast on Thanksgiving evening and getting into Friday. And this could be a bigger system for parts of New England. But I need to express how uncertain this is right now. I've been watching it for the last 6 days in the forecast models, and it is not well resolved yet. These features are subtle. They're not yet fully understood in the models, nor by us as meteorologists. We're watching very small things come together using model guidance as our best guess, as to what might happen. So I want to just make a point here. There's no agreement in the models yet. This is the GFS. So let's just get out there. This is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Now, this is the time frame, Wednesday into Thursday, that the models were attempting to build. The ECMWF was attempting to build a low here. Notice it's not even there in the GFS. If it is, it's way up here in Ontario. No big East Coast bomb cyclone coming out of this. So just understand, still a lot of uncertainty and large model spread. We can look at it another way. This is pressure anomalies from the, this is average pressure by the European ensemble. So what you're going to see first, that's the big Arctic high coming through the end of this week into the weekend, and that's the thing that suppresses the precipitation across most of the U.S. but delivers the lake effect snow. Now, what happens as we go into Monday and Tuesday, that spreads farther to the south. And what I'm watching for, again, is by next Wednesday for the pressure to start to lower. Now, the European ensemble takes a cluster of lows. See them right here? Through parts of kind of the U.S.-Canada border, so into Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And then as we play out there to Thanksgiving, you can start to see lower pressure showing up here. But no real indication yet in the ensembles of the timing, the size, and extent of that potentially disruptive storm on Thanksgiving and afterward. You do start to see, though, take a look, something brewing over here by the time we get into Friday. So I just want to let you know, next week, the end of next week, the holiday weekend, we need to be watching from the Midwest to the East Coast. Now from there, I want to show you what's really started to back off the rainfall totals and snow totals in the West. We were talking earlier this week about better chances as the MJO got back into phase 6 and La Nina made a surge. Well, take a look at these jet stream level winds here. Coming across the Pacific, okay, we broke down the ridge by this weekend, and I was expecting just better onshore flow into the Northwest. But you see the pattern's kind of broken up. 1, 2, 3 ridges. Rather than just pushing straight across the Pacific, it's broken up more now. So by next Thursday, we're actually looking at a ridge trying to build into the west. I had anticipated better onshore flow, more systems coming in a week from now, but the models have really just shown us that the likelihood of that occurring is starting to diminish. So what we're not getting, which again was something I had anticipated seeing but no longer see, is the full extension of this jet making its way all the way across the Pacific Ocean. The latest forecast trends are backing off on that. I'm going to explain in more detail in the long-range video I'm going to do here in a few hours, but I wanted you at least to see the latest because that helps explain these two maps. We know we're drier across so much of the country for the next 7 days, and that's what we've got here. But in week 2, remember, we had seen better chances of moisture coming into the west, and now it's kind of backed off a bit. Still could be better in parts of California and Oregon, but I had anticipated more for the whole of the Northwest out of this particular pattern setup. Now from here, let's go over and talk about temperatures. You can see the extent of the Arctic front today. As we play this into Saturday and Sunday, that cold air advances east. Now, we do start to see some mild air returning into parts of the Central Plains, and you can think downslope flow coming off the mountains for this particular warm-up. It's also going to be mild along the west coast. But temperatures really start to moderate as we get into Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, as this pattern kind of lets go of the big ridge over Alaska, the deep trough over the Hudson Bay, and starts to open up to more subtle features, including by next Thursday, Thanksgiving, some quite mild conditions under that ridge I just pointed out to you in the European ensemble. So what do we end up getting out of that is that the day 5 through 10 temperature pattern, we could see more mild air across the Canadian prairie into the Midwestern the Western plains, really, and the West Coast. And then the end of November, the very end of it, could see some mild days showing up here. Don't expect that to be settled. We're going to have a very volatile pattern moving forward with this. But I would like to show you a couple other places around the world here. First, let's stick with the United States and just give you the preview of the December outlook. I'm going to cover this again in my in-depth report. It's also written about in today's written report and email. But from here, let's at least go to have a look at what NOAA is suggesting for the month of December. Very La Nina look to December, and we do expect this La Nina to peak in December and fade in the new year. Continue to see evidence of that occurring. And the last thing would be to take you over and show you what's going on in South America. The models remained with the drier bias in Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and southern Brazil, but it is now not as dry as had previously been forecast. In other words, we're starting to see more model spread here, which again could lead to better rains for especially for Argentina to finish a plant. Now to the north, the models have been very consistent from Mato Grosso do Sul, east to Goiás, Minas Gerais. Very wet conditions, which means this bean crop that's big is right now going to be getting quite a bit of rainfall through a critical month of December, and that could set it up for some pretty high total production numbers here and decent yields across northern Brazil. The risk area remains south into Argentina, but we'll keep an eye on all of it and how it evolves, and I'll report back to you again next week. Real quick, next week I'll do videos Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but I am going to take off Thursday and Friday just to celebrate Thanksgiving with my family. So I appreciate you all giving me that break. We'll talk again next Monday. Thanks.